So, to talk about Steve Jobs, I believe he was an effective leader, but he also had moments where he was ineffective. And when he was effective, he never let illness get in the way of being successful. He wasn't scared to push for goals that were a bit out of reach, which wowed so many people, and why Apple was so successful and still is to this day. And he would bend reality and he'd accomplish it, and he believed in himself. But when he was ineffective is when he was unapproachable and hard to work with. Those kinds of people are ineffective. And to be successful as a leader, I think if you're going to initiate change and really create those values, then people need to be able to approach you and feel like you're making a difference. And he was a transformational leader because he wanted to make those changes and had a vision. He didn't necessarily like to work with teams and follow. He didn't have people that loved to follow him, although he had followers. It was hard to follow him because of his way of working, but he did create a vision that made Apple so successful. And the reality distortion field is something where they bend a fact to fit the purpose. So this fits with Steve Jobs because he often would make goals that seemed unreachable. And then in 60 Minutes, they talked about one time he had made a goal for something to be created in a month, and people told him that was crazy, not going to happen, and then he made it happen. So he had this belief where he just couldn't accept when someone told him that something was impossible. And he didn't put on and off switches on any Apple devices because toward the ends of his life, he talked about the afterlife, how he wanted to believe in that. But at the same time, he felt like click and you're gone. And so that intrigued him to not put any switches on his devices. And some things that are striking about his life is that he always had a feeling of abandonment, and he was adopted and he was told that he was chosen. So ever since then, he has always felt special, and he didn't want to live this lavish lifestyle, even though he was worth $7 billion without all of those different assets as well. He was so smart, yet he declined to listen to medical professionals, which is different because you would think someone with so much money, they would want to be able to pursue the care that he would need to be cured. And his personality being so strong and so unapproachable and strict is striking about him as well, even though he was so successful. In his relationships with his coworkers, I think he was unapproachable, but people knew that he could help them to success with his innovations and changes that he made. So he definitely had a confrontational leadership style where people could be honest with him and they liked it, but at the same time, there were people that didn't feel that was effective either.